Board of Education meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we'll start with our community session. We have some recognitions tonight.
We have some guests here. I believe on behalf of our entire Teachers Association, we have Michael Ginsberg, our MEA president, and Marianne Babbitt, our vice president. Thanks for coming tonight. I appreciate it. So this week is Teacher Appreciation Week. It's a week-long gala. And I know we've had a lot of events in the schools themselves. A little background. There were discussions for a day to honor teachers that began way back in the 1940s, 1944. In 1953, Eleanor Roosevelt persuaded the 81st Congress to proclaim National Teachers Day, and then Congress declared... I'm trying to... So future student, keeping our enrollment up, thank you so much. I want to thank the Kittle family. National Teacher Day, May 7th, 1980, and then the NEA, National Education Association, continued to observe Teacher Day on the first Tuesday in March until 1985, when the National PTA established the Teacher Appreciation Week, and they are instrumental in celebrating Teacher Appreciation Week in the schools with the delicious breakfasts and so forth, and gifts. Said the small tokens of appreciation they give our teachers. And then the NEA Representative Assembly voted to make National Teacher Day the Tuesday of that week. For this week, May 7th to May 11th, we want to show our thanks and our gratitude and recognize you publicly. We're only as good as the quality of the people that work with our kids. And you represent not only classroom teachers, but our support services, special education, school psychologists, school counselors. It is an incredible team of teachers.
We do it all.
Support staff, we do it all. And our district is truly who we are because of who you all are. So thank you very much for coming. And on behalf of the board, thank you for your work. Your student is applauding out in the hallway. I think that as well. Okay, moving on. We have another appreciation. We've double dipped on weeks. We also have our National Nurses Week. And can you all just introduce yourselves quickly? We have some folks from our school. Go ahead. Karen.
Yeah, I'm Karen Owen. I'm at Colston. That's a 7th and 8th grade building.
I'm Wendy Flynn. I'm at Island Avenue Elementary.
I'm Deshauna Kittle, and I'm at the Town Campus Preschool.
And we have a couple of guests here because Karen is going to talk about some additional recognitions after I give my little spiel, if that's okay. All right. So National Nurses Week was first observed in 1954 in October, and it was on the 100th anniversary of Florence Nightingale's mission to Crimea. May 6th introduced the date for the observance in 1982. National Nurses Week, which is May 12th, the birthday of Florence Nightingale. That had been, let's see, so that was since 1982. School nurses in our schools. So how about the nurses in our schools? Well, I think medical conditions and you help kids with bumps and bruises and grinds is probably a small part of the pie. Our school nurses provide social supports, emotional supports, psychological supports to students, parents, and staff. You're there for everyone. You're there before, you're there during, you're there after. Our nurses are an incredible team of people. And I know Karen has a couple of interesting things that she wants to share, but one piece of data before she does that. We have just shy of 1,200 kids at Daniel Hand. And in this school year alone, there was over 24,000 health office visits at Daniel Hand. At Polson, we have 437 students, and Karen herself saw almost 3,400 office visits. At Brown, 396 students and almost 4,400 office visits. And our combined elementary and Mrs. Kittle's TSCLC, 866 total, with over 8,000 health office visits. So this is from any type of injury to I just need a little time with the nurse, I'm sure, to something even more serious from a medical condition perspective. But it is a busy place. Everything is logged because the contact log numbers are here as well. It's remarkable the work that you do. And on behalf of the board and the community, thank you so much. We have a gala event coming up, don't we?
Yes, so tomorrow is National School Nurse Day, and the Association of Connecticut School Nurses is having a gala celebrating 50 years of school nursing. And at that gala, which will be very exciting because we're having music and a champagne toast and awards, and I'm happy to say that Deshauna will be receiving a peer recognition award, and Marty Sclair, our former medical director, will be getting, yet again, the School Nurse Advocate Award. So we're very excited to be represented there.
Being recognized by your peers always means a lot. It does mean a great deal. So congratulations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. Enjoy your week. Public participation. Is there any member of the public who would like to speak? You can go.
This is the time. Transition.
We'll miss you. Okay, hearing none. The superintendent, oh no, I'm sorry, student representative reports, I'm so sorry.
Down to the wire, man. Only a few more meetings left.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we
I was thinking about that, and I was like, Mr. They're in the, that's part of the thing. They're in the process of picking placement. Okay.
So right now, all of the juniors and seniors are taking AP exams. I currently have taken 2 so far on Monday and Tuesday this week.
You live to tell them.
I've got 2 more to go, so it's definitely a struggle, but we're all doing it. We also had the junior prom, which was a lot of fun. I was there. There was a lot of, everyone pretty much showed up for that. There wasn't a lot of kids that I saw that weren't for my grade there. So that was a lot of fun. And we also had the people in their PAW groups that we have voted for their underclassmen officers for next year.
So then on May 1st, we also had a voter registration. So anyone of age can go and register to vote, because sometimes we forget that, hey, we can actually go do it now. So they usually like to do it in the end of the year, so more kids can actually, are like of age to do it. So there's also the Cas Scholar Athletes, and this year it's Owen McShane and Taylor Scully. So I know them well, and they definitely deserve it. And we've also had graduation has been decided. It's going to be at 6 p.m., not in the morning. So I'm happy about that. We get to go right to night of hand.
Very good.
When is the senior prom? June 2nd. So
Wait, what's June 2nd? The
the
senior prom?
senior prom,
Okay.
yeah. So, and the day, what's it called? The 8th is going to be our senior volunteer day. So we're all going out to volunteer instead of having a senior outing.
Where's the prom going to be?
June 2nd.
Where?
Oh, at,
New
I should know, Cascade in Hamden.
Oh, okay.
Cascade, yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the superintendent's report.
So the end of the year is a very hectic, flurry-ish kind of activity. We have graduation, which you mentioned, Emily. And I had let the board know in a written message about the starting time, but I just wanted to make a couple comments publicly about that as well, because we kind of backed into this discussion because last year we were forced to have an earlier start time because of the impending weather. A number of folks after the fact said, boy, is this something maybe we can do another time next year, that we can move it earlier. It was great to have our kids and then have dinner and then they go to night in hand. So after engaging students on it and a brief survey went out, the overall sentiment was that there was no clear mandate. It was very mixed, and like any calendar or any scheduling, you'll have folks that will be very pleased and folks that won't be so pleased. So without a real strong mandate, Mrs. Hightory made the recommendation to keep it at 6 o'clock, which I know you're happy with something as well.
Yeah, a lot of people are.
Yeah, and there were some questions on behalf of even staff members informally that we do have teachers of elementary and middle school students who like to go see their former students at graduation. Especially if it's your first class, you're a second grade teacher, and 10 years later you want to go see that first class. And so that was something that weighed into it. And then we were able to last year pull off for the families who have an 8th grader and a senior, that they can do both the pulse and stepping forth and graduation. But there was a concern about, can I do both? We did it last year, and just it wasn't a mandate. So we're staying at 6 o'clock, pending the weather.
Yeah.
Which is always.
More weather.
But the end of the year, we talk a lot about the prom in the high school, but for the K-8 environment, there is a lot cooking at the end of the year. I'm not going to cover everything, but just some of the highlights to make the board aware. First of all, last week, Ecology Day at Brown was off the charts, outstanding. I have some pictures and I'll share with the board, and we have some a little digital album that we took. Owls, critters, creatures, the 5th graders had a blast. It was great. We had a great day there. The keynote was wonderful. Pam Meyer, who's a former board member, was really instrumental in making this happen, and it was just outstanding. So that was a great day. But tomorrow, the 5th graders will be up in Hartford to watch the Yard Goats play baseball. It's their annual baseball trip they do. As a class get-together. We have declamation contest for 5th grade as well. That's coming up on the 14th. And then Camp Hazen for grade 5 on June 1st, and the same day. It's going to be very quiet at Brown, because on June 1st, grade 6 will also be at Lake Compounds. So they'll be out and about. At Polson, Mr. Henderson will have a coffee on tomorrow with any incoming 6th and 7th grade parents, rising 6th and 7th grade parents. We have an advanced theater performance for grade 7 at 6:30. And then on May 22nd, there's going to be a spectacular play at Bolson. And I have to go.
Yes.
My daughter's in
You know the star.
So, yes. The theater program has a play there. Law Day on May 8th is incredible. If you're interested in coming, we have folks from the F. Do you remember it?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember?
Law
Wasn't it
Day
cool?
is the best thing ever.
It is, yeah.
It's so cool.
Any board members interested, please let me know. FBI, DEA, any law enforcement officials, attorneys, and so forth. Art Robbins, Mr. Robbins, Social Studies, has organized this for years. It is an outstanding event. We had a helicopter one year. It's just a great, great day.
Are they going to have camos there this year?
Have what?
Are they going to have camos and trees?
Oh, I don't know.
They had that my year. It was so cool. It's like,
Yeah.
spot the camo.
Yeah.
It was so much fun.
Yeah. It's always a little surprise every year. The 23rd, grade 8 will go up to Hand to do their visit up there. And very exciting on the 21st, this is something that we have been doing for years now. Judith Altman, who is a Holocaust survivor, comes and speaks to, you remember that as well, to the student body. It is absolutely riveting. She has more energy in her 90s than anyone I know. She is amazing. She is so well spoken. The kids cannot get enough of it. We can't get them out of the auditorium. She is outstanding. Yeah, she is outstanding. Orchestra concerts, spring concert, the 24th, the 31st. The grade 7 will have a celebration on June 15th, and grade 8 will go on the 20th to Holiday Hill. I mentioned, I think at the last board meeting at the elementary level, we have our field days going on. Those got bumped a little bit later in the year, but a really cool, I won't say event, it's actually a curricular extension here. If you recall, for newer board members, you may not recall. For returning board members, you would recall. We instituted a curriculum program called the PADDY Project. It's a performance assessment project. It takes multiple disciplines together, and it thrusts kids in this environment where they got to solve some pretty difficult problems. The grade 4 problem focuses primarily on our coastland, our wetlands, invasive species, the human impact on horseshoe crab population, erosion and the impact on the shore, positive steps to minimize the impact of natural disasters, and then renewable and non-renewable sources. We are coming up with a very long menu of authentic audiences. And on this list of audiences, we have State Representative Kokaruda, State Senator Kennedy, First Selectman Tom Banish, but also the Deep Fisheries Division, the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. We have the Conservation Commission, Department of Energy, Planning and Zoning, the Meggs Point Nature Center, and the product that the kids will be culminating this project in will be targeted towards these folks.
Yeah,
correct?
it's a positive change campaign is really what they're going after, and it's going after two of our 21st century capacities, citizenship and synthesizing. So they're actually looking at the question of how do our actions and choices impact the world around us. And they do that through responsive classroom and a social perspective. They do it through ELA, science and social studies. So all year long, that is a question that they study and that they seek to answer over time. And their role in this positive change campaign is that they're going to convince this authentic audience to take action in some way. And we have gotten responses in the past, and they have been thrilled with the outcomes. But the pamphlet that they create is investigated through a group energy, and then the individual student has to select the best pieces of information to support their campaign, which is really hard for a fourth grader because you're used to writing long and writing a lot, and now they have to take the best information and make a pamphlet, so it's a real challenge.
So my two final comments on this is I love the fact that this is a direct through line from our district vision, which we have to keep alive through teaching and learning, right down to the classroom and authentic purposes and audiences for kids. The other part is, public education gets beaten up quite often and, for a number of reasons. One of them is that the method of delivering content and curriculum is done in silos, where you have your science class, your language arts class, whereas once you pivot into the real world, there is no science problem. Most problems are maybe a science problem with a communications problem and a math problem kind of twisted in it. So this gives kids an opportunity to wrestle with real world problems. And I love the spin on the what do we call it, positive change campaign. I love it. So.
Can I just make a comment about
that?
Yeah. So just an anecdote is that you definitely had an impact on a fourth grader who lives in my household. She has taken this and written letters to two of our selectmen who have not answered her back. She's very upset about it, about a positive change she would like to see in Madison starting at this level. The next step, she told me, she's sending it to the source. So good girl. So yeah, so it really, like, you really she really took it in, and she's really, it's also driving me crazy whenever I'm at the grocery store with the plastic bags, but that's a different issue.
And my last update is kindergarten. I like to give this time of the year. We projected 138, we have 131. So we're right up on that edge right there. And we'll keep monitoring that throughout the summer. And if it levels out in that 138, 140-ish range, we'll be fine. If not, we'll be discussing additional sections if needed. Right now, we don't.
Okay. Any comments? Board member comments? Any comments? I just have a couple things. I was invited last evening to attend the SEPTO event at the Mercy Center, which is the second in their series. It's called Choose Love at Home, and it was presented by Scarlett Lewis, who is Jesse Lewis's mom, who was killed in the Sandy Hook tragedy. And it's an at-home, free, downloadable program that families can use, and it provides emotional intelligence tools to model behaviors, set intentions, identify and manage emotions, and respond to situations with love. So it was a really neat event, very well attended, and it was inspiring. So that was good. The other comment that I had was I just wanted to make everybody aware. Yesterday, I got a request from the Selectman's office that we discuss and take action on an agenda item for tonight to recommend a timeline for the return of Island School. So on behalf of the board, I responded, given where we are in our timeline and that grid that is really large, that we would discuss it tonight for sure, but that we were not prepared as a board to take action quite yet. Our timeline, if obviously we want to be good partners with our selectmen, I know they are busy at work and have lots of balls in the air as well, and we want to work in cooperation with them. So we will continue that dialogue, and Tom will be in touch with them as well. And I believe our recommended timeline that we had discussed as a board was sometime in the summer.
Yeah, we said July, but I just talked to Bruce before the meeting, and Tom, the other Tom, is in town tomorrow, and then he's out of town, so I can make it a point to discuss if there's, and let the board know if there's something definitive that's needed, and we can work from there.
And then you'll report back to us.
Absolutely, yeah.
Does anybody have any questions?
Does that work?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we talked about, you know, what's kind of driving the need for this conversation, so
Yeah.
Whatever you guys can do to help us out, I'd appreciate.
Certainly. Okay.
And by that, I mean a time,
Yeah.
right? So we're not trying to force your schedule at all.
Yeah.
We're just trying to get a sense of what it is for our planning purposes.
Yeah, I think, and I'm speaking for myself now, that having never closed a school, it's hard to know, but certainly if there was a need that you identified, that we would work faster.
Well, I think the facilities committee also, I think we talked about the timeline. That we've been focusing on the transition, but I could put Bill's attention on, you know, let's estimate what it's going to take you from the time the kids leave, let's just say it's June 20th next year, to how much time we would need, and then the condition of what's left behind, because we know we won't be needing all that remains in the building, and if that's okay, we got a lot of those details to work out.
Right, again, it's not like we're not looking for a specific date,
Okay.
just.
Yeah.
Oh, that's helpful to know. Okay. Date meaning of.
When we're going to make our decision.
July, we
And when
can
we're
make,
gonna-
we will be, the original plan was the board would name a date in July.
I thought the original plan was that you would
We're not supposed
recommend
to
to
do
us
that.
in July.
Oh,
and
you
then-
don't have to.
Parliamentarians
Yeah, you don't
yelling
have
at
to.
us.
No, and then we would take action
We're
in
gonna have an
September.
item on this tonight?
No.
No.
No. We're gonna have to be.
We are not
There'll
taking
be
action on
discussion.
this.
Okay.
We're just discussing.
We should be cautious about how deep into discussion we get without an item.
Okay,
That's
fair
okay.
point.
So that's the parliamentarian.
Thank you, parliamentarian,
Yeah.
keeping me honest.
We break this rule all the time, by the way.
Yeah.
Have Gus in the meeting and try to keep.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any other questions?
So for clarification, are we still targeting July to have a discussion? Our
Yeah,
July meeting?
I was charged with having a recommendation in July.
Okay.
Yeah. and
So we only
can-
have
I
one
can
meeting in
definitely-
July, so it should be on that agenda.
Yeah.
Of course. Okay. Board committees, planning committee.
Before I go, Tom, did you want to do the Brown schedule?
I could, you know what? I didn't have it on here, and I apologize for
Yep,
that.
no
And
problem.
I have to make copies of that.
Okay.
So let me talk, and then I'll make copies. Thanks, Gail.
You want my copy, Gail?
Sure.
Is that helpful?
So we presented to planning after a good 4 months or so, really of wrestling with what would an intermediate school look like. It's not a model that we've had in district. We've had a pure elementary model and really a pure middle school model from Brown to Polson. And by that, the amount of minutes dedicated to subjects, the number of teachers that a student would have, not having recess and so forth. So it was a pure middle model, pure elementary model. With the closure scheduled for Island and the reopening of a 4-5 school, the administrative team really underestimated how heavy this lift was going to be. We thought in December, out of a couple of meetings, we can hammer this out and come up with a recommendation. The deeper we got into it, we realized that there is a big cascading element to this. Now, once we establish what Brown really recommended to look like, that it affects the rest of the system. So we spent the better part of the last, I'd say, 3 or 4 months since January working with this. It started with the whole child wellness team, coming up with really developmentally what would be most appropriate from a cognitive perspective, social perspective, physical perspective. And long story short, we ended up with really a hybrid model between a pure elementary and a pure middle school. I think one of the things that jumped off the pages at us was the way certain programs, I'll use language arts for example, transition from elementary to the middle level to high school. There really wasn't a close examination of how the minutes would change programmatically, so dramatically, from one level to the next. So we sought to make that, we have an opportunity now to smooth that out and to make it more appropriate, respond to the curriculum. So at this point right now, the highlights are that we're looking at,
Thank you, Gail.
So the very top chart there, you can see we have the proposal for an aggregate amount of hours for each of the subjects there. And then in the middle, current grade 4, current grade 5, you can see where the difference is between what we're doing in elementary and then what we're doing in grade 5 now. So the proposal on the left would smooth that out. It will be one model between grades 4 and 5. In order to accommodate some of the bigger priorities, and one of the priorities is really to make sure that kids have a couple of really solid unstructured recess blocks where kids are unstructured by meaning it's their time. That time had to be found from somewhere. To increase our language arts minutes, that time had to be found somewhere. So right now, the current Brown model has 3 periods a day of related arts. That got reduced to 2 periods a day, which really dialed back the number of minutes on world language. And those minutes were found then in the core for recess, for morning meeting with responsive classroom, and for an increase in language arts minutes. But you can see the difference here that grade 4's minutes in science and social studies is very low compared to what we're recommending, and grade 5 is slightly above that. But philosophically, this was based on really continuing a strong language arts analytical reading and writing program that'll serve them well as they get to secondary and they're tackling difficult content area text and technical text in science and social studies. Gail, anything else you want to add beyond the highlights on that one?
No, I missed part of it, so I don't know what to add.
Oh,
sorry.
Yeah.
If there's any questions, I can answer.
Anything, Justice?
Related arts.
Related arts, yes. So in the bottom, you'll see our specials. And our specials will rotate 2 days, an A day and a B day, A day and a B day. Spanish will be all year long, every other day. And PE, that's shaded as well, that's all year long, every other day. And we'll work in some health and guidance lessons there as well. And then we're looking at one, let's say, lane of a trimester of STEAM. Right now we have 10 lessons of STEAM that get baked into our math program primarily. We would look to extend it to 30 lessons for a full trimester. A trimester of art, which we do now, and a trimester of, we have coding there, it's technology, which we do now as well. And we renewed that curriculum there and piloted that this year. And for the performances, 4th grade would maintain the recorder, which we do for instrumental. And all kids would take theater, as opposed to just self-selecting in it. It'd be a full trimester for kids in 4th and also in 5th. And then all kids would take a general music program. So it is much more geared towards the experiential model, where kids would not be necessarily making specific choices at 9 and 10 years old. We did have some initial discussions about, is the theater program viable for maybe rethinking the elementary specials? That's to be discussed at a later date. But is it possible to build it at the elementary level, perhaps? And we also talked about the world language program in 3rd grade, some of those minutes being increased slightly as well. Cover the related arts?
That's correct.
Yep.
Good.
Was there any clarification on what the instrument would be for 5? Yeah.
No, this is a music teacher's problem to help us solve.
Okay.
Because there are models out there where it's experiential and you kind of test drive certain things, but we're not going to pass around the trumpet.
Actually, in February.
Yes. Yeah.
The nurses
Yeah.
would get much
Yes.
more appreciated.
Yeah. So
But
this is,
To be determined.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
just kind of a template for us to work off of, and it's a lot easier for staff who are building something to be able to see what the parameters are. So 30 lessons, okay, so I can work within 30 lessons. What can be a rich enough program for a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old?
Any other questions? Okay. All right. Thanks, Tom. Sure. So in planning, we had a robust meeting today. We started out with the social studies year in review with Chris Pagliucu. Chris stated that we have almost completed year 1 of the social studies curriculum implementation. He reminded us that every grade came into this year with their own circumstances and set of challenges. Some area of focus for him this year were creating age-appropriate resources for K through 4, excuse me, as not many are readily available until 5th grade. Getting teachers to load student work as references to utilize for next year and beyond. Ensuring vertical alignment. Upper grades seeing the foundation and where the kids have come from, and the lower grades seeing where they are heading. Continuing to work on the collaboration with the community. Grade 11 came and helped teach grade 5 for a day when they were reviewing documents from the Madison Historical Society. And the Madison Historical Society is going to create a junior membership for high school kids. They'll charge them $3, and they can either pay their dues or they can volunteer some hours in exchange. Some goals for 2018-2019 as he looks forward is to continue to look at the vertical alignment, to look at the science and social studies integration, and to prep for Brown School realignment, especially around grade 5. And then we talked with Sarah Sandora, again, to have a year in review. She will be coming to the board in a few weeks for the adoption of the following curriculum: grades 1 and 2, 4 through 7, conceptual physics, which is offered in 9th and 10th, and chemistry for health sciences, which is offered in 11th and 12th. Her summer writing focus will be kindergarten, 3rd grade, 8th grade, and the high school electives. Her goals for 2018 and 2019 will be piloting K3, 3rd grade, 8th grade, and high school courses with the exception of the electives. And she's also going to have a vertical alignment focus. We then spoke with Julie and Rebecca about the Brown schedule for grades 4 and 5 for 2020 and beyond, which Tom just reviewed. And now the admin team will move to the Polson and elementary models and their schedules. We then talked about uses of professional development time with Julie and TJ. We reviewed the PD building activities for this school year, 2017 and 2018, and the number of subs at each school this year. We also reviewed the instructional rounds that was used at Brown during this school year. Then we moved on to talk about the progression of freshman English with TJ and Michelle Horn. It became clear to TJ at the beginning of this year that an increase in coaching presence was needed at the high school for freshman English. So Michelle Horn's schedule was adjusted so that she could spend 3 days at the high school and 2 days at Brown. The adjustment is needed for the differences now of the kids entering high school who have now been using Readers and Writers Workshop for a few years. As a result, we need to reimagine the English classroom and start to see how we can bring in the idea of choice to freshman English. This requires some shifts in practice. Teaching, reading, and writing versus assigning, teachers conferring one-on-one or in small groups with an instructional focus, students spending more time working with each other on reading and writing, and an overall emphasis on growth, not products. So what has she done so far? Michelle moved to the high school in November as the instructional coach. They increased PD, taking existing units and creating units that allow for choice, independent reading, time, and book clubs as a central focus. She helped build grade 9 classroom libraries to allow for the engaging book choice. It has been a little rocky, as you can imagine, as this is a shift for the high school. Changes in the overall engagement model are happening, but they're still reading the classics as a whole class novel. So her focus for 2018 and 2019 will be to continue all those initiatives as well as re-look at the whole English department, not just freshman English. Any questions? Thank you very much. Personnel Committee.
Hello.
Hello, Chair.
The Personnel Committee will be meeting with the Teamsters Union tomorrow. End of report.
Thank you. Policy Committee.
Yes, so we have policy 4141, social networking today for third reading, and an action item later on the agenda for that, as well as another policy that's also on your agenda, bylaw 9400, which I discussed those last week. If anyone has any questions on those.
Finance.
Okay, we did not meet this week, but I want to take my time to talk about just once again the state of the budget, because I want to make sure that everybody understands where we are, feels like they have an opportunity to weigh in. So where we are is becoming clear that special ed is putting us, we're spending a lot on special ed, and we are going to have a deficit. Okay, so this affects the ESS program. The way that we voted to fund the ESS program was to utilize any unspent money that we had in our budget for this year. If we have a deficit in our budget, we don't have any unspent money. So, how do we fund the program? It was proposed that we utilize the special ed reserve and ask for the money for the deficit as well as for the ESS program. We didn't vote to fund the program like that. So, if that is something that is of interest, the board needs to take action on that. That's a separate action than the one that we've already taken. This is a good time for a discussion amongst the board. If you have questions, please ask them, because we have to vote. My understanding is we have to vote next May 22nd meeting for whatever we're going to request from the special ed reserve.
So,
do we have to? No,
we
it
should.
would be nice to get that part over with.
So that you have time to then request it of the town, because just so everybody understands, the special ed reserve fund is not a Board of Ed fund, it is a town fund.
So I spoke with Jean at length today, and her interpretation of that piece of it is not the same as what you just stated. The way she described it to me is it's all of our money, and please Stacey, I'm gonna need your help, that the Board of Ed puts money into the special ed reserve. It is a town account, but it's Board of Ed money. So as I said to her, I said, so it's the difference of taking it out of this bucket or this bucket. And she said, no, it's the difference of taking it out of this part of the same bucket or another part of the same bucket. Am I understanding that properly? Or can you help us? Because I think that's the semantics issue that I'm struggling with understanding.
Okay, so
Forgive
the
me.
special ed reserve is made up of funds that were previously approved through the Board of Ed budget that was returned at the end of the fiscal year. So currently we have $282,000 in that special ed reserve, which is for special ed external placements to support that deficit. So I'm not sure about your conversation, but I can say that everything in that fund were funds returned from the Board of Ed in order to support any deficit in special ed coming forward.
And when we pull from it, which it looks likely that we'll have to do this year, and because it doesn't look like we're gonna have funds to return, then that fund would be much lower for next year going into it when we need it, if we need it next year. Because we won't be adding to it this year unlike prior years.
Correct, unless the town for some reason opts on their own to replenish the fund. Otherwise, yes, you'll be drawing down on that fund, the balance that's in there.
So just so you know the numbers, so the deficit it's like 61,000 and change, close to 61,000. The ESS program is 120,000. So it would be 181,000 that we would be asking for from the special ed reserve if we were to go that route. And then I think based on the way that we voted, we still would have to return the 120,000 and then have the town give it back to us. So we're asking for 180, holding 120 of it, giving them back 120 and having them give us back 120. So there's two asks to for the town, based on the way that we voted to fund this program.
Just to clarify, those numbers that you were just describing are from 2 weeks ago at the meeting? They have not been updated since?
No, they haven't been updated. So it potentially could be,
So
the deficit could be less. Maybe there are available funds in some accounts that we've been looking at that potentially, I don't know, because we haven't had a more recent. There's no update on that piece. I just want to make everyone aware. I don't want to get into a position where we come with a recommendation from the committee on May 22nd and everyone says, what is that? Where did this come from? We don't know anything about this.
So clarifying, so for me, the question is whether or not we use the special ed reserve account for the purposes of covering the special ed deficit while securing the $120,000 for ESS for 18-19. So there's another, right? There's a different way to do it, which was on that sheet that I think you're referring to.
Yeah. So
which is kind of protecting that 120.
Right. So the way that the administration proposed to do it was to hold the 120, which gives us a deficit of 100 all in with the special ed and then what the funds that we think are available to us. It gives us a deficit of 181,000. So we would have to ask. So the committee would recommend either asking for the whole 181,000 if this board took action to try to fund the ESS position that way, or we could just recommend asking for the 61,000 and then try to figure out some other means of getting to the ESS position.
Who do we ask?
We ask
Special appropriation
to the Board of Selectmen.
Right.
Yes.
The money would come from the reserve fund that's being talked about.
Right.
So I think, to me, I'm just giving you the facts. I'm not like weighing you one way or the other, whatever. To me, I just want to make sure that we're doing this correctly. So and I think you can have time to think about it. It doesn't have to be, like, you don't have to decide right now, but if this is something you'd like the Finance Committee or the board to take action on, there needs to be another vote to fund the ESS position from the Special Ed Reserve Fund. Because that's not how we voted to fund it in the first place.
Can we freeze
No, that was proposed.
I think we could freeze monies, although somehow it's the same thing, because we still have to
It's all
utilize
the same
unspent
money,
funds.
and that's what Jean and I were talking about today. It's all the same.
It's the same money, it's just we have to follow the process that we approved as a board. Right?
So I think there's two options. We either take everything we have and apply it towards the special ed deficit, and at that point, we're still going to need to dip into the reserve fund, not as much.
Right.
So that's option one. Or we dip into the reserve fund now to help our special ed external placement account, and then try to keep that 120 aside and not use that to help our special ed deficit, and then return that in order to fund it. So there's two options right now. It's either, as Happy said,
You said it much better.
It's either 60,000 or it's 181,000. The question is, do we want to ask now, right now, or within the next month, in order to withdraw from that reserve to help our special ed deficit? And if we can do that, then we can still try to maintain that 120,000 to return that to the town in order for them to return it to us for their
Right, so it's giving them
program in
back.
18.
But I think that we have to have another vote to do it like that.
I agree.
We have to have another vote, because we
There's
didn't
two
agree to fund it
options.
like that. So we have to there has to be another vote. So my concern with
Either
that.
way, we have to have a vote. Or if we want
Well,
the
we'll have to
funds.
vote on any special appropriation.
Okay.
So anytime we dip into special ed
Right.
reserve, it's just the amount would be different.
Right.
And I would prefer if that is something that you want the finance committee to it has to come out of committee, so if you want us to recommend, I'd rather have the board take that vote prior to our next committee meeting or the following committee meeting, so that the correct thing comes out of committee and we don't come back.
You meet in 2 weeks, right?
The 22nd.
Were there any stipulations when the special ed reserve account was created in terms of what it can be utilized for?
It's for external placements.
Yeah, the language.
This is exactly what it's for.
Which isn't ESS,
Not
though.
ESS.
No,
No,
deficit is
and that's not what we would be asking for. We would be asking, if we currently ask to withdraw a certain amount from that special ed reserve fund, it's for external placements.
Which
It
is
has nothing to do with
61,000.
ESS, Which
Yeah.
would be currently,
Right now
would
it's
be,
300,000.
Yeah.
uh,
The deficit's
the
created
balance
by
here is
external placements,
282.
not from ESS.
Currently, based on our projections right now, and it is subject to change, it would be 181,000.
But that includes not spending the money for ESS.
Correct. So if we,
Getting it out.
correct.
But that
So,
wasn't how we voted. We
No.
voted that we are gonna spend down all of our accounts, and if we happen to have money left, we would return it to the town and they'd give it back to us for ESS.
that's why I'm saying if we want to do it this way, there has to be a different
There's,
amount.
yeah.
But
There's
that
two
depends on
options.
whether or not you think that the reserve is part of a fund that we can access because there is already an external placements excess.
There is, but you
There's
have
deficit,
to, you have to
right.
think further than this year, because next year you could put yourself in a really bad position if you have zero money in that reserve fund.
Yes, I think that is a real concern.
That's a good point. It'll be zero.
And so-
It'll be, well, there would be a
Yeah,
hundred.
yeah.
100.
It would be 100,000, and we don't know where next year's
Right.
gonna land. It's based on what we know at the time. So the question is right now, do we want to request the money to help us where we are right now, and still try to protect 120 to return to the town in order to run that program next year? Or do we want to use everything we have and apply that towards our special ed deficit right now?
So what would be helpful to the board? I mean, so it's so complicated.
So, okay, so our next
If
meeting.
we could write that up, so
Okay.
that people had some time to really look at it and think about it, would that be helpful?
Yeah,
Those two options?
I think
Two
I would.
options.
But yeah, no, it would be helpful, but I understand. Do you understand? You don't even have to bother then writing it up.
So we can certainly, we'll do that and send it. I am a little bit, our next committee meeting is the 22nd. I would encourage anyone who can make it to come to the committee meeting so you could weigh in. I don't want to do sort of one-on-one weigh-ins back and forth because that didn't work well the last time and I don't want to
What
go down
time
that
is
road
that?
again. What?
What time is your meeting?
It's at 5:30 on the 22nd. So if you have concerns, I would say, or you have questions, at the very least, try to get Gail and I together on the phone. If you can't make
email.
the meeting, yeah, or an email. Is it a quorum? Because it's only two people in the committee. Committee quorum, it's not.
On the phone?
I mean, if we have
Is
two
it-
of us and we're a quorum for a committee, does it count as a committee meeting? You know how if we have any?
Oh,
no,
I
it
don't think
doesn't?
so.
Okay. All right, so then yes, please don't just do one-on-one to me or one-on-one to Galen, but let us both know exactly what your quick concerns or questions are. Because we will come up with a recommendation out of the next. So, are there any other questions? Okay.
I just have a question. I just want to make sure I understand. Because it seems like there's like three like there's what we voted on originally, that, you know, when I was in Mexico on the phone for the ESS thing. And then there's one option to pull from the special ed reserve fund to cover the 61,000 in deficit.
Right.
And then there's the third option,
Third
right,
op-
which
right.
is there's three options, right?
Yes.
What we voted, and then the two options you presented today. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're
Well, I
assuming
think
that, we're assuming that we're deficit in.
Yeah.
Right, so we're gonna have to ask for something from the
Okay,
staff.
so that's
No matter
what's
what.
changed since our last vote,
Yes.
is that we know we for sure have a deficit. The question in front of us is how we respond to that deficit
That's
and
right.
what we do and how that might affect the reserve fund and ESS.
Right.
And the money back and forth to the town and all that stuff.
Right. And making sure that we follow the process we voted to follow,
Correct.
to fund it. And if not, if we're gonna do something else, that we vote to have a new process.
I would find it helpful to have that in writing, just because there are a lot of, so when you say like we have to follow the process of what we voted on, if these two options today are would be different processes, to sort of, that would be
We'll put
helpful
it in writing.
to see, because it is a lot of moving pieces and a lot of things, so that'd be great. Thank you.
I can do that. I think
That would be great.
it's unclear on what we voted on. This was not addressed in the actual letter
Yeah.
written, but I can certainly lay out both options.
That'd be
So you
helpful.
all know what
Yeah, and if this, then that, or if this, then not that.
Yeah.
How ESS fits or doesn't fit into those, it would be really helpful.
So I think we need to make it clear for everybody in the public that it's a judgment call on the procedure, not the merits of the ESS, right? We all,
Yeah.
there's unanimity about that.
And I think, I mean, best intentions were we averaged what we generally are able to give back, and wouldn't you know, this happens to be a year that we're running in a deficit, so, you know.
And if I could ask another question?
Please.
If, so if we pull the money, so I think it's a valid concern, if we pull the money this year, we might not have money to contribute
We won't,
in future years, we won't, right?
for this year.
For this year, right, okay. So, if ESS winds up saving us money next year, would we have more money hypothetically to contribute years?
I don't know. We
Is
don't
that-
know who's going to
Only
be out
money at
there.
the end of the year.
We won't know.
Right, but I mean, if it winds up saving us money, then theoretically we should have more money to put in for future years, is that?
Well,
for
it may
special
avoid
reserve?
outplacement.
If it avoids outplacement.
It has avoided outplacement at the high school, we know that for
Okay.
sure.
Clearly.
Yeah,
Okay,
it
so
has
that's,
saved the district.
But when, I believe when we implemented it at the high school, there was somebody that was coming in and it sort of paid for itself the very first year.
okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Pulled back in, I believe 2 students at that point came
Yeah,
in to offset
we were
the
able to-
initial
yeah,
cost. It
the
did,
initial
yeah.
cost.
But since then, we've only advertised it as, you know, obviously a program for kids, but from a financial perspective, it's only been advertised as a cost container.
Right.
It hasn't been advertised as a, you know, a revenue generator or
Right,
Yeah,
of
no.
course.
targeted to pull kids back.
Right.
Right.
But I think your point of one kid,
Well,
you know, essentially it's a cost of one kid being homeless.
because you want to be able to contribute a little bit every year to the reserve. If you need to drain it, you need to drain it, but maybe in future years there'd be more to contribute. It's just fun.
And this is at the junior high, or the
Paulson,
Paulson
seventh
level?
grade, yeah.
7th.
Yeah.
Great questions, everybody. Any other questions?
I'd like to say that I'm happy for trying to do the right thing the right way, that's all.
Thank you, Happy. Okay. Anybody else?
Thank you.
So, Learn Liaison, thank you.
Nothing to report. We're meeting this week
Thank you.
on Thursday.
Facilities Committee report.
And reading a report. The Facilities Committee met on Tuesday, May 1st. Discussion was held about updates to the prioritization of the 10-year plan, largely due to the order in which maintenance items must be appropriately addressed. And next, we discussed options for sharing the 10-year plan with the community, as well as options for soliciting feedback from the community. End of report once again.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Audience response to information. So I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Sorry. Discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. I need a motion to approve the minutes from the April 24th Board of Education meeting. Second? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion to approve the revised teacher evaluation.
So
Galen?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And one
I wasn't
abstention?
here.
I'm having a hard time hearing everybody, sorry. I need a motion to approve, to adopt policy 4141, the social networking policy.
So
Second? Oh, it doesn't need a second. Thank you, came out of committee. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. I need a motion to waive the second and third reading of bylaw 9400.
Second.
Any discussion? Don't need a second.
You, that's not on committee. That's procedural.
That one's not, thank you.
I think. I'm pretty sure.
Gerg.
And if not, we got a second.
Discussion.
What is the difference between plurality and majority?
Plurality is, oh,
No, go ahead.
no, you raised your hand, that was good.
Blurter, sorry.
That was good.
You're not a
Do
blurter.
it. No, you raised that
Utility
word.
term.
It's all yours. It's all yours.
The majority would be 51%, plurality is just the greatest number, like
Majority.
35%, 30%, 17, whatever.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Is that, did I butcher it, Greg?
That's right. I was just saying, I had to look it up too, the first time.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. I need a motion to adopt bylaw 9400, organization of the school board. Happy? Sorry, I can't hear you guys.
I'll second it.
Does that one need to be seconded? Nope.
That's out of committee.
Next one.
Yeah. It's just
Discussion? This is the discussion. Any other discussion? All in favor?
weird. Aye.
Motion carries. Is, any old business?
I could not find any history on the colors of Madison.
I emailed the Historical Society.
Oh my God.
I have not
I
heard
talked about
back.
Hale. Yeah,
And
Bob
you-
Hale had nothing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Nothing. I was so disappointed.
And officially on the web, on like Wikipedia, which I know, but it lists for each school the colors, black and gold. I'm like, oh, how do they know what the colors are?
did it
Go
say
to
anything
school
about the
with
district? But nothing about the district. Interesting. So I'll see. I'm not hopeful, but you never know.
I was
The
very
Historical
tempted to
Society
make-
is incredible.
I was very tempted to create a fake Wikipedia Daniel Hand page with like a story about the
Oh my
blue and
God.
the black, and yeah, but I didn't.
That goes against the social networking policy.
I'm sure it does. Yeah.
Graduate.
I'm just kidding, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Okay. That was old business. Future agenda items.
May 22nd, if I may.
Change the colors in the future agenda items.
New businesses, I think I'm more than look up. There usually isn't new business.
I think it's just.
It has been posted, yeah. May 22nd, I won't be at the board meeting, but I'd like to get the final cleaned up version of the scorecard, the balanced scorecard out to board members next week. So if you can take action that night, that'd be great, and give you time to ask any questions prior to that.
Great. Meeting and dates of importance, please see attached. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
That was fast.
Second. We are adjourned. Oh.